Hello and welcome. We're going to talk about money. In particular, we're going to talk about how to take control of your finances. Now, money can be an embarrassing and bewildering topic. Maybe you get to the end of the month and you think, where did all the money go? Why do I never have any money? Other people are doing fine, but I can't make it to the end of the month. So we're going to talk about this and that question, where did my money go? We're going to, over 4 messages, replace that with this question. Where do I want to tell my money to go? And so we're going to give you some simple tips to take control of your money so that you know what's happening and you make it do what you want it to do. Now, we all have attitudes about money that come from our personality or our family of origin or the environment we live in. And we have feelings like, oh, spending money makes me happy, or spending money makes me anxious, or oh, I need to buy one, I'll buy the cheapest one there is, or I'll buy the one I like the best, or this is a big purchase, I'm going to ask for a discount, or oh no, I'd be too embarrassed to ask for a discount. So we have all kinds of thoughts and feelings around money, and then someone comes to us and they say, I'm doing a sponsored event, will you sponsor me? And we think, well, of course I will. And we're not thinking about where that money comes from. And so these random purchases and expenses create a sense of chaos in our lives. And we think, I just can't get a handle on this. It's too complicated. Now, money is also a faith thing. And bringing faith to the issue of finances is tremendously helpful. First of all, it means we give. Yes, even if we don't have much, we give some, like the widow who gave her mite. And giving breaks the stranglehold of selfishness. It also breaks the stranglehold of anxiety because it brings some joy into the scenario. When you give, you not only bless another person, you bless yourself because generosity is now an environment you're living in. So faith also allows you to pursue the purposes that you think are appropriate for your life. So you do certain things and do them deliberately, and money is the way to do that. We know that God's omnipotent. He can do whatever he likes. Well, I've got news for you. You're omnipotent too, not to the same level. But if you've got some money, you can do with it whatever you like. You can pay fees for something or give it away or buy some food. You can choose what to do. So money gives you power to do real things in the real world. And that's where we live our lives. So we're going to look at how you can take control of your finances over these few messages. And the first thing we're going to do is this. We're going to look at the idea of knowing what's going on. There's a verse in the Proverbs which says, know well the condition of your flocks and pay attention to your herds, because wealth does not last forever. So the advice we're being given is to know what's going on. Lots of people, when they get a financial makeover, the financial expert comes to see them and sits down and they talk. And then the financial expert looks at their accounts. And then they come back to the person and say, how much do you think you spend every month on groceries? And the person says, oh, maybe like €300. And the expert says, no, actually it's €700. They don't know what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, it's very hard to be in control of it. And when you have your money is the time to manage it, not when it's gone. So let's become aware of what's going on in our lives and in our financial lives. So the first thing we need to do is to find out what's happening in our financial lives. So this might require looking at your bank statements and at your spending habits where you have records of them and becoming conscious of what expenses you have and where you spend money and even where you would like to spend money. So the first thing you need to do is make a list. Make a list of all the things on which you spend money or want to spend money. So I will suggest some categories, but you can do this any way that it works for you. I'm going to suggest 6 general categories for you to work on, and I'm going to talk about them now. And when you're organizing your money, you can organize it in different ways. That's another thing you'll need to think about, is how are you going to organize your finances? There's the traditional method, which is jam jars. There's a jam jar for every set of expenses. So savings, the money goes in this jam jar, and regular bills, the money goes in this jam jar. That's quite a traditional method. Okay, it's a historical method. It has the advantage that it's transparent. It has the disadvantage that, well, you're subject to burglary. Not a great idea to leave loads of cash hanging around in your house. But if you choose to do it that way, that's your choice. You could also step it up a little and use envelopes and put the money for the different things into envelopes. Here's a giving envelope. Here's a saving envelope. Here's a loan repayment envelope. So you could do it that way. Or you could do it with a written record. You could keep your money in the bank, and you could, on a page, just make a list of, here's what I need to spend it on, and here's how much. Here's my bill. That's what it's going to be. And make a list of all your expenses. Or you could do that on a spreadsheet. Or, better still perhaps, you could get an app on your phone, a checkbook app. If you're searching for one in the App Store, maybe spell checkbook the way the Americans spell checkbook, C-H-E-C-K, because these apps are usually called checkbook. A checkbook app where you can create accounts and list items and put in amounts, and it's an easy way to make a list of your expenses and to keep track of what's going on as money comes in and out of your bank account. Or you could use a debit card, not a credit card, a prepaid debit card. And if you use a debit card to organize your finances, you put your money on the debit card. If it's not there, you can't spend it. And then inside the debit card, you can make vaults or spaces that you can assign to different things. So you can have a vault that's called savings, and a vault that's called regular bills, and a vault that's called day-to-day expenses. And you put money in there. And when you spend out of those categories. And the great thing about debit cards is that as soon as you buy something, whether it's in a shop or online, the money goes out of your account straight away, and the balance updates in the app straight away. So in fact, the app does the accounts for you. So you don't have to say, I must remember when I go home to write down what I spent the money on. It's there in the app. So you got all these choices, everything from the historic jam jars, envelopes, keeping accounts on paper. Good idea to make a list somewhere, or in a spreadsheet, or in an app on your phone, or use a credit card. Sorry, a debit card, not a credit card, a debit card which comes with its own app, something like Revolut or N26. A debit card that comes with its own app that will keep track of where your money is going. Okay, so let's get back to thinking about the various categories of expenses that we have. So the first one I have here written in this envelope is giving. Why did I put that first? Well, I said we're taking a faith perspective. And in Proverbs 3, 9 and 10 it says, "Honour the Lord from all your wealth, and from the first of all your produce. So your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will overflow with new wine." I like the sound of that, don't you? So honour God first. Now, the reason you should do your giving first is if you take the view that I'll give what I have left over at the end of the month. I've got news for you. For most of us, we don't have anything left over at the end of the month. So if you're going to give away your leftovers, you might not be giving at all. Also, giving creates a sense of priority. You're saying, my purpose is to be generous. My purpose is to honour God. My needs are legitimate, that's true, but I want, first of all, to honour God with my giving. And how much should you give? Give what's in your heart to give. That's what the New Testament says. Or as I like to say to people sometimes, give the amount that gives you joy. So if you're giving a certain amount and giving more would bring you joy, yeah, give more. So give what brings you joy. Give what's in your heart to give. It's a heart thing. If someone else tells you that you must give this amount, that can take some of the joy out of it. But you give from what's in your heart to give. Now, don't give everything and leave yourself then as a person in need who needs to be picked up by someone else. So be sensible as well, because some of us just experience this big gush of wanting to give and do so maybe in a way that's foolish without thinking. We need to think about all these things. So give the first and give from your heart. So you might like to give to your local church. That's a normal thing to do, and that supports the ministry of worship and of sharing the good news and of reaching out to the poor and giving into your local church also means that your giving is probably more tax effective, because if you're a taxpayer, there will be some relief for charities on that. But it also gives you the power to combine with other people so that as your church leadership makes decisions, you can do big things together that you would not be able to do alone. So it's the power of working together. So you will obviously want to give there, but you may also want to give to other things, other outreaches or charities or issues that are close to your heart. And I suggest that you make a fund for generosity. Even if you don't have a lot of money, put aside some amount of money each month, which will be for you to be generous with. So if someone at work says, I'm doing a sponsored cycle, will you sponsor me? You don't just, as a matter of guilt and embarrassment, say, well, I have to give them some money, but I don't know where it's going to come from. And now I won't be able to pay for the children's shoes. You have a generosity fund. You say, I'd love to. In fact, you've been waiting for that opportunity because you now go around as someone thinking, I'm someone who likes to give and be generous. And even if that fund is small, there is a little fun there. So the first category, which I suggest you put aside, is for giving. And I suggest that you organise your finances on a monthly basis. You can do it weekly if you prefer, but many of your bills will arise monthly. And so I suggest monthly. And if you're someone who gets your income weekly, here's a possibility for you. If you organise yourself monthly, then in the month there are 4 weeks for income. And those 4 weeks will make up your income to meet your monthly expenses. But then there are not 48 weeks in the year, there are 52. So there will be some months when there's an extra payday. And that gives you some extra money to put aside for saving or for something special. And it can be a really helpful way to get some extra cash into a tight budget, is work on a 4 weekly income but a monthly outgoings. Anyway, the first of the 6 categories I'm going to suggest to you is giving. So I suggest when you make your list that you put giving as a heading on your list, and then you say, I'm going to give to my church, I'm going to give to that thing, I'm going to put aside some generosity money. And in this way you list out the various places you're going to tell your money to go. So the next up is saving. Saving, you say. I can't even pay my bills. How can I save? Well, this is my plan for you. Okay, now my savings ambition for you are not very ambitious, but I do have a figure I want to mention to you. I am going to suggest to you that in the next 12 months, you will save €1,000. You say, that's a lot of money, James. Or maybe you don't think it's a lot of money. And the reason I'm saying that is that that's to be an emergency fund. We save for different reasons. We save for big expenses that we know are coming. We might save for some big lifetime goal, like a deposit for a house or towards a pension. We also save for emergencies. And I'm suggesting this €1,000 for you as an emergency savings fund, even if you don't have any other savings. If you save a €1,000 emergency fund, then when the emergencies happen, it's there. So something happens, you have a minor accident with your car or a sudden dental crisis, and you need, €200, €800. You have an emergency fund. And by the way, when you need the emergency fund, just go to the emergency fund and take out the money and spend it on what you need, and then start building up the emergency fund again. I know when we start to save, we can get to love that savings account and say, ooh, it's now 300. Last week it was only 250. And when we have to take some money out, we think, I don't want to touch my savings. Savings are for touching. Money is for using. It's not for loving in its own right. That's called idolatry. Remember we said we're taking a faith perspective. So I am asking you to plan in the next 12 months to put aside €1,000. Look on it like a bill, like other bills, your electricity bill and your home insurance comes in and you pay them every month. Why not look on savings in the same way and set up a direct debit into a savings account so it just goes out every month and you don't even think about it. It's just like one of the other bills. And as time passes, the power of steady, you have a savings fund. What a feeling. Okay, so savings, that's our second big item there. Saving for known expenses or for unknown expenses. And my recommendation that you put €1,000 aside in a savings fund. Okay, next up. Next up is loan repayments. Okay. Now, if you are in very serious debt, if you have been receiving letters from your bank threatening the repossession of your house, you need more than the common sense tips that I'm providing in this session. You need some legal help from a solicitor or from an agency such as MABS, M-A-B-S, Money Advice and Budgeting Service. In the Republic of Ireland, that's mabs.ie. Someone like that, or a legal professional, you need help from them rather than just trying to take some simple steps like what I'm recommending. So if you're in a crisis situation, you need professional help. If you're in the other situation, if you have so much money that your problem is knowing where to invest all of this money, you also could use professional help rather than this type of presentation. So perhaps you need an investment advisor who can advise you about your portfolio. This message that I'm providing is for the rest of us, those who are just struggling to get control of our finances and just want to use our money to do the things that we want to do. So, paying off debt, paying off loans. In our next session, we'll talk a good deal more about getting this done because loans are a robber. And that's one reason I want you to have an emergency savings fund. If you suddenly have a crisis and you don't have money, you reach for the credit card. So not only do you have to pay for the thing you need, you have to pay for the money to pay for it by paying interest on that loan that recurs and maybe at an unfavourable interest rate. So next time out, in our next message, we will look at ways we can pay down debt. And that's important to do with if we have multiple debts. Now, you may have a home loan or something else that, of course, will be part of your structured financial arrangements over many years of your life. But I'm talking about unplanned expenses that suddenly you just reach into debt. So you can see the benefit of having an emergency savings fund. So loan repayments, we'll talk about it more in the future, but put it on the list. Any loans you have, when you're making your list, under loan repayments, write down your mortgage, or if you have a car loan, or other loans you've taken out of the credit union, or if you've got a store card, or any other easy payment method. Easy payments are not easy for you. It's easy money for the person who's selling to you. So always be aware of easy payment options. If there's an option to pay cash, it usually means less money. So pay the full amount if you can. Use your emergency savings fund so that you don't have to resort to easy payment mechanisms that give easy money to the seller and take more money out of your pocket. Because we want to spend our money on the things we want. We don't want to spend some of our money on the things we want and some of it on paying back the money we needed. It's a great thing when you get your income, in whatever way it comes to, that it's then yours to spend, rather than before you get your income, it's already spent. It's owed to someone else because of loans. So this is a big thing, and we will look at this in our next session. Okay, continuing with our list. The next thing I suggest, next category is regular bills. So there are monthly bills that you're going to have. If you're a homeowner, you'll have housing or mortgage bill, utilities, electricity and broadband, and insurances, medical insurance, and maybe other insurances and taxes, property taxes, groceries, expenses for your family, and then other subscriptions or expense you have in relation to your monthly, just running your home and your life. So put all those on the list and put amounts beside them, because you want to become this person who knows well the condition of your flocks and pay attention to your herds. You want to know where the money is going and how much it is. And when you begin to look, you begin to know. And then you can see, hey, we can make some changes, or we can take control of our finances when we know what's going on. So the regular bills, list all those. The next category I'm recommending to you is your irregular bills. These are bills maybe that pop up once per year, maybe your car repairs or your car servicing, or maybe some insurance bills or professional memberships just pop up once per year, and it's not a regular monthly thing. Put those on the list. There are also bills that arise that are unpredictable in the amount. Maybe in winter you use more electricity for your heating system than in summer, and so there's a certain unpredictability here. But try as much as you can not only to list all of these items on your list that you're making, but to put beside them what seems to be the appropriate amount per month, that if they were a regular bill, what they would cost you. You might have holidays, which occurs irregularly. You can also have bills that are unexpected. And so you might want to put those on this as well, in the sense of making provision for just those incidental bills that will arise from time to time but don't arise regularly. So we're putting these on the list. It's the unexpected bills that arise, or the bills that are irregular, if not unexpected. Irregular bills, and putting amounts beside those that correspond. Now, if you've got, say, electricity bills in Ireland at any rate, they come bi-monthly, which is kind of strange. So every second month you get an electricity bill, and the months in between you don't. So in the months in between, maybe you could arrange for some of your other bills to fall due. With your irregular bills that arise over the course of the year, with a little planning, you can perhaps space them out so you don't get them all in the same month. You got your electricity bill this month, and your home insurance, and your motor tax, and something else. So insofar as you can plan it, you can plan for every month, be ready for some irregular bill that falls due that month. And if they do come in a cluster, you can plan by putting money aside each month so that when they come, it's not a surprise. You saw it coming. So putting it on the list and looking back over the last year to see what happened puts you in a position to be ready for these expenses. The last item I have is what I call day-to-day spending. Now, day-to-day spending should be just for small stuff. You pay for milk in the grocery store, or you parking for your car, or for you need to get batteries for the remote control. So for small expense like that, you probably don't want to be taking down the ledger and holding a financial summit to decide, shall we spend €2 on the batteries for the remote control? So you might want to allow yourself that small amount of money for lunches or small expenses. This should not be a large amount. When your finances are chaotic, it's because all of your money is seen as day-to-day and you just spend out of one big fund and then you don't know where it went. So a small amount for day-to-day expenses. And like maybe coffees. Maybe you like nice coffee. And when I spoke earlier about saving up money and you thought €1,000, that's a lot of money. Well, how about a cappuccino? Is that a lot of money? It's about €4, isn't it? If you buy a cappuccino every day, you're looking at €4 a day. Over a year, that's more than €1,000. Would you like a trip to the Grand Canyon? You think, I can't afford a trip to the Grand Canyon. Oh, yes, you can. Which would you prefer, to look into the cup and see that frothy stuff in the bottom, or look over the edge of that natural wonder, which is the Grand Canyon? So 1 year of daily coffee equals a trip to somewhere special. I'm just saying it's for you to decide what your priorities are. But often people don't realise how much money they spend on small things. The power of steady. Small potatoes sown every day become a big crop. And if you redirect your finances in a deliberate way and choose the things you want, and that's for you to decide. Is it coffee? Which is great. I've got no problems with coffee, especially cappuccino. Or is it you'd like to use that same money for something else? Because you can't spend the same money twice. Now, this is kind of obvious, but every time you say yes to something, you say no to something else. So when you say yes to that daily coffee, you're saying no perhaps to something else. So I'm not trying to put a guilt trip on you. I'm just trying to make you aware that every choice you make is not just a choice about that thing, it's a choice about other things as well. Will I do this? Or if I say no, I can do that. Because some of us just love to say yes. So our colleague at work is going on a sponsored cycle. Sure, here's €20. And that's a nice thing to do. But have I said no to something else that I was going to spend the €20 on? Did I have a generosity fund and I gave out of that? So you see, we're being deliberate about the choices we make rather than mindlessly spending money and then saying afterwards, where did it go? Okay, now, so your homework is to complete your list. This will make you aware of what's happening in your financial life. What are you spending money on right now? So make a list and check it twice. So make the list of all the items under the 6 headings I've suggested, or under headings of your own. It doesn't matter to me. These are just suggestions. So my suggested headings are giving, saving, loan repayments, regular bills, irregular bills, and day-to-day spending. So make a list of all the items under all those headings or other headings of your choice, and opposite each item write the amount, the monthly amount or equivalent monthly amount. And if you like, put a little minus in front of every one of those amounts, because those are the money that's flowing out. You might want to make another list, I suggest this to you too, of the income you have, whether that's from salary or wages or a social welfare payment or a family allowance, or if you rent a room in your house, or if you have grown-up children living at home and they pay you something, which they should do, or inheritance or other source of income you might have, maybe a part-time job or a hobby that earns some money. So whatever your source of income are, put those on a list and put a little plus sign in front of all those. In our next session, we're going to look at balancing the budget, making a plan so that the income is sufficient to meet your outgoings. When we add them up, we want to see, is the plus as big as the minus? Or do you even have a surplus? That would be nice. Or is there a deficit? And what can we do to address that deficit? So think about that list as your homework. Make that list and become aware. Become a person who knows the condition of your flocks. And on your list, of course, there will be some things that are high priority and some things that are lesser priority. So you will become aware that if you go to spend money on something of lower priority, you are now becoming aware, am I saying no to something that's a high priority on my list in order to spend money on something that's a low priority? So make that list. That's your homework. And also decide how you're going to organize yourself. Money in jam jars or envelopes or written accounts, the keeping track of your money in the bank, or a spreadsheet to do the same, or an app on your phone, a little so-called checkbook app, or a debit card, which will both be used for spending your money and for keeping track of your money. So it's over to you to get to work on knowing the condition of your flocks.